Well, hello to each of you. It's great to be back with a new video in my series called The Peripheral Perspective. So whether you are brand new to my channel, returning viewer, dear subscriber, it is awesome to have you with me. I honestly had no idea if I was going to be able to put out another video before the closing out of this calendar year, but here I am. And what a calendar year it has been, full of challenges, full of lessons, but these lessons have truly served to help me cultivate greater awareness and also to continue solidifying my foundation in terms of what it is that I have to share with you. So we've got this topic today. Do you live in a pressure sandwich? And as you can see with this body graph here, this happens to be my body graph, that there is this smokestack coming out of the head center and out of the root center. So I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I'm gathering that at least 40% of the population have a configuration that involves openness in both the head and the root. And while there's no design that's better or worse or easier or more difficult, there's something to be said for this particular dynamic. And I have to say that this year in particular has taught me a lot about this. And it has taught me how, despite where I am in my deconditioning process, that there is still a lot of wisdom to cultivate here. It's very humbling to realize how sensitive I am to taking things in from the world around me, to taking in this mental pressure, taking in this physical pressure, and how it can just completely take me out of alignment with who I am and influence not only the way that I move through the world, but also the way that I make decisions. So you are welcome to pull up a copy of your body graph if you have that accessible. And this might be a video that pertains to you. Maybe it pertains to somebody that you love, someone that you know, somebody that you'll meet down the road. I hope that whatever it is that I share today is something that will hold some practical value for you. And before we actually dive in, just a little bit about me for those of you who have yet to meet me. My name is Melanie Halpert. I am a natural advisor here to guide those who recognize and invite my guidance. I am highly intuitive. I've got this uncanny ability to hone in on these crucial details and the way that those details weave into a larger framework, connecting these dots sometimes that can be so obscure yet so profound, and really help people to repattern behaviors that keep them stuck, that keep them victimized, that keep them creating resistance, oftentimes completely unbeknownst to them. So I guess you could say I consider myself to be a mechanic for body, mind, and soul, 20 plus years in the field of holistic health, a certified body talk practitioner, now since this fall, a certified human design analyst, and a certified living your design guide. And in my ability to help people modify their behavior to move towards a safer future, this is something that's really powerful right now, because we're all standing on the precipice of a major global cycle shift in 2027. So in this truly unprecedented time of transformation, our single most valuable asset is the mastery of the way that we manage our individual energy. So I just want to let you know that even though you might not really know yet at this point how to live in alignment or how to eliminate resistance, each and every one of us is equipped with an organic genetic strategy for that to unfold without having to force it in something very logical, something very practical, something to simply experiment with. And I know that it can be kind of weird when you encounter some new information. Human design is really not meant to be dogma. It's really meant to be a way to play with energy and see what happens in trying something different. So as these structures around us continue to disintegrate, yeah, we can be in a position where we're freaking out and how are we going to survive and what are we going to do? Or we can equip ourselves with life-changing information where we learn how to move through the world with greater ease, and we learn what it is that we can trust inherently to make aligned personal decisions. So this is where we're at right now. And this focus today, being the pressure centers, is I feel like it's really critical for those of us who have openness here, because no matter what we do, no matter where we go, no matter who we're with, no matter the circumstances, we are always going to be subject to conditioning, taking in the pressure of others and amplifying that pressure. The difference is, are you going to be taking in that pressure, amplifying it, and giving it the power to control your decisions? Or are you going to become aware as to how that pressure influences your mind and gets you to make decisions and to move through the world in ways that are actually not natural to you, that actually create resistance for you? So that's the difference. It's like, we can't escape it, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Where we're open in our design is actually our greatest wisdom potential. And for all of us, doesn't matter even however we're configured, you see that downward facing arrow and upward facing arrow. Pressure is always squeezing downwards from the head and upwards from the root, all meeting here at the throat, which is, I guess you could say, called the town square, the center for communication and action, manifestation. So all that pressure, all of that energy is squeezing towards the throat. So if you happen to have one or both of those centers colored in your design, what that means is that you've got your own consistent way of handling pressure. Does it mean that your life is amazing and that you're never anxious and you're never stressed? No, it does not mean that at all. It just means that by design, your organism has its own way of dealing with that consistently. For those of us who have openness there where it's not colored in, there is no consistency. So it is always going to be influenced by what it is that we're taking in, not only from other people, but also from the transit field. And even though this is truly educational in nature, not meant to replace medical advice, what I will say is that the way that we handle pressure, I mean, all of us, the way that we handle pressure, it has the potential to greatly influence our well-being, to greatly influence our health. And that's why, through just coming into contact with this information, starting to become aware of it, it has the potential to really bolster your well-being in ways that you might not even know. So let's take a look here at the head center first. So this is a center that actually about 70% of the population has openness. This is our center for mental pressure and inspiration, questions, doubt, confusion, ultimately pressure to live a meaningful life, to live a secure life, to live an emotional life, depending on how you're configured. But for all of us who've got openness in the head center, we are addicted to distraction. So let that sink in. And just take a second. If you've got openness there, could you attest to oftentimes being super scattered, distracted by all kinds of things, having a gazillion tabs open? And not to say that, I mean, I think we all can, no matter our configuration, but oftentimes those of us with openness in the head, we are super busy thinking about things that don't ultimately matter to us. It is full to the brim with other people's stuff. It's full to the brim with the way that the transit field might be influencing that center. So this can show up as a loss of focus. It could be a loss of presence. There can be bright, shiny object syndrome, trying to answer everybody else's questions. And so there's this pressure to act on inspiration that might not be in alignment, or to forego inspiration that is right for you. And there are some of us, myself included, that have no dormant activations on the head center. So you can see here that it's just completely wide open. There's no little black activation or red activation or a combination of both. It's completely open here. And this is having no framework for what is legitimately interesting. And I remember at the beginning with human design, I was really insulted by this whole thinking about things that don't matter and having no framework for what's legitimately interesting. I was like, how can anybody assume that what I think about doesn't matter? And how can anybody assume that I don't have a framework for what is legitimately interesting? And all I will say about that is that it has been extremely humbling to recognize the truth of that, and how everything that I thought was so important that I think about, and everything that I thought was so unique to me, was actually as a result of what I was taking in and amplifying. That openness, we're here to become wise about what is inspiring, wise about what is potentially confusing, wise about what is a distraction versus what is really the correct thing for us to either be bringing our focus to or our presence to. And then we've got the root center. So whereas 70% undefined or open for the head, here about 40% have openness in the root. So that's why I said at the beginning of the presentation that I guess, just mathematically speaking, there has to be at least 40% of us that have both. And whereas the head center is about mental pressure, and it could be like that anxiety, mental anxiety, this is more of that physical anxiety, physical adrenalized pressure that can be recognized as stress. It's the sustained momentum for living. This can be pressure to live a reproductive or fertile life, to live a physical or active life, to live a pleasurable life. And this root center, the big addiction is being addicted to stress. And again, to just take a second and to see, do you live on a treadmill? Are you constantly getting things done in a hurry? Everything has to be done now. Doing, whatever you can do, doing it as fast as you can and getting lost in everybody else's urgency. Remember, with these centers, with openness here, we're taking in and amplifying pressure coming in from the outside. So we can be under major pressure to hurry with stressors that at the end of the day are not actually critical to us, that are not really in alignment with us. Maybe it's something that does require getting done, but does it absolutely have to get done now? Does it have to get done as quickly as possible? And we can also end up just passing over, foregoing what is essential for us in favor of the conditioning, whatever the priority the conditioning has established. And those who have a completely open root, so no dormant activations, red or black, or both red and black lines, having zero framework regarding when to hurry. So I like to kind of think of completely open centers like a deer in the headlights. It's that there is no inherent just framework to be able to relate to that, and being at times a complete pristine mirror for whatever it is that we're taking in from others. So these centers, when we've got a completely open center, is something that offers literally the full spectrum, every single color of the rainbow in terms of what you can take in and experience in that center. So that being said, living in a pressure sandwich is a configuration which can exist for all types, whether you're a manifester, whether you're a generator or manifesting generator, whether you're a projector or whether you are a reflector. And especially, I mean, if you're a reflector, you've got no centers colored in your design. So you will always be subject to living in a pressure sandwich. Does this make you more vulnerable than any of the other types? Not necessarily, but it is something that you have to contend with day in and day out. So what's super interesting is that wherever we have our openness, it kind of creates this adaptive strategy to get a certain need met. But that need is ultimately what the mind thinks that it needs to do. So living in this pressure sandwich, the pressure that we're taking in mentally and the pressure that we're taking in physically is always churning out this mental narrative inside of our head that is telling us what we need to do, what it is that we need to do. And ultimately, when it comes to the manifester, when the manifester is making decisions under pressure, if they're living in that pressure sandwich, it's still always going to come down to getting those things done to either find peace or to avoid anger. When it comes to the generator and manifesting generator, decisions under pressure are a not self strategy, either to find satisfaction or to avoid frustration. For the projector, decisions under pressure, a not self strategy, either to find success, to experience success, or to avoid bitterness. And then with the reflector, decisions under pressure, a not self strategy to find surprise or to avoid disappointment. So this is the irony, is that the manifester, when operating in alignment, will organically be at peace. The generator and manifesting generator, when operating in alignment, will organically find satisfaction. The projector, operating in alignment, will find success. The reflector, when operating in alignment, will find surprise. And so what ends up happening, though, is that this thing becomes a carrot on the stick for the mind. It becomes that carrot on the stick. And instead of making decisions from a place of alignment and creating sustainable fulfillment, sustainable peace, sustainable satisfaction, sustainable success, sustainable surprise, acting under pressure. So allowing the mind to hijack your decision-making strategy is going to, you know what, maybe you will experience fleeting peace as a manifester if you get that thing done. But you know what? You're still going to be on that treadmill and you're going to end up getting really angry and pissed off because you're just always catering to this pressure. You cannot be free. You can't be free if you are living your life on that treadmill. Same thing with the generator and manifesting generator. If you make decisions under pressure, maybe you'll be like, oh, okay, great. This thing's done, or oh, I did that thing. But at the end of the day, when you are constantly making decisions under pressure, you're still outsourcing your authority. Are you really using your energy in ways that are personally satisfying? When it comes to the projector, making those decisions under pressure, maybe there's going to be a quick fix and something seems to work out. But I mean, at the end of the day, from personal experience, I can say that oftentimes it is fleeting and not sustainable. And same thing when it comes to the reflector. So these, we've got something that is called our signature, which is inherently our birthright. It's what we are here to experience when we're in alignment. And when it comes to the anger, and when it comes to the frustration, and when it comes to the bitterness and to the disappointment, the mind can be driven to avoid those things. But the truth is that those things are here to be our greatest gift, because when they arise, those are signposts to tell us that we are operating out of alignment. We are operating in ways that are creating resistance. They are our signposts of resistance. So this is a real opportunity to look at the mind, how the mind is eager to chase that carrot on the stick, to go after that thing and to avoid that thing. Whenever we are allowing ourselves to be hijacked by the mind's priorities, we can never create sustainable ease in our life. Now, a little note here is that general rule, and I will not say that it's a blanket statement, it's just that manifestors and reflectors tend to be most deeply affected, impacted by the transit field. So yes, what is going on with the planets as they orbit around. And generators and manifesting generators and also projectors tend to be most deeply affected by people. So if you have yet to ever explore that, it's something too that might be really interesting on your journey. So these decisions under pressure, we are genetically attracted to what is different from us. And we are genetically attracted to living out who we're not. So it's really sexy for the mind. It really is. It's like a moth to a flame. It is an incredible draw, an incredible pull. You're not defective. There's nothing wrong with you. All of us, where we're open, is where the mind is going to be pulled to constantly to make decisions for its own agenda. And yet our openness is our greatest wisdom potential. It shows us what we're here to learn about. So you're not doomed. Human design brings awareness to what creates resistance in our life and also what hijacks our capacity to make aligned decisions, to allow aligned decisions to unfold from the correct place for us individually by design. And so we really have a rich opportunity to master the discernment of contrasting frequencies. And one of the most beautiful, beautiful things about my own human design experiment has been really to see that there is a contrast in these frequencies. When you are in alignment, when you are correct with yourself, it is so tangible, and it's just as tangible when I'm not. And also this recognition of the way that energy flows organically, because it's like that fish swimming upstream versus fish swimming downstream. Energy works in specific ways. We've got very specific mechanics. And when you unlock and dial into the way that you're designed to move through the world with ease, it is a complete and utter game changer. So we've got Ra here, and I called this slide What to Do, which is kind of like a dual thing, because Ra would always say what to do, kind of like, like it is what it is, no choice. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm living in a pressure sandwich. What do I do? So whether you're brand new to human design or a seasoned veteran, it is always going to come back to the very same, very simple thing: experiment with your strategy and authority. It is so underrated, but it is what it is. And while we're not going to be getting into specific strategy and authority today, just to kind of highlight that strategy is how we're designed to move through the world with ease. It's akin to our own personal law of gravity. And authority is what we can trust to make aligned individual decisions. And to remember that whatever that is, because there are many different types of authority in terms of what we can trust to make those decisions, you can bet that whatever it is never the mind. And that being said, your design is completely unique. So there is the capacity to work with a certified human design professional when it comes to openness in those pressure centers to learn the specific types of pressures relevant to your design, the specific triggers for the pressures relevant to your design, and also how to work with the specific pressures with greater awareness. So if you have made it this far, thank you so much. It was fun to be back in action. My greatest joy truly is working with those who value the importance of investing in their health, well-being, and potential. So whether you are someone who is struggling, facing challenges, unwell, ripe for change, looking for empowerment and direction, whether you are an industry leader, high achiever who's always on the lookout for a new edge, or a coach, and you've got some clients and you're like, this stuff is really amazing, I would love to bring it to my community, I work with all of the above. So just know that my door is open to you if and when the time is right to connect. My website is www.melaniehalpert.com, and lots of goodies can be found on my link tree. The link is there here on the slide, and I will also put it in the description box for the video. So until next time, may you all be well. And yeah, a smooth closing out of this 2023 calendar year on the way to the fresh new solar cycle, January 22nd, 2024. All right, take care. Thanks again.